Hello everyone. In this video, I want to highlight some of the deeper challenges and learning experiences that I feel are coming with this Venus retrograde in Leo journey. So as of today, Venus enters the shadow period for this upcoming Venus retrograde journey. Also, Venus is pretty much almost at the midpoint between its square with Jupiter and its square with Uranus. A lot of these soul dynamics are getting really strong and getting real right now. Here's the first thing that I want to speak to. To such a significant extent beyond what we tend to be aware of, when it comes to all things Venus, there tends to be a very strong dependency on what other people are doing for us, on how our social experiences, our relational experiences are the source of how we feel. And how often do we hear ourselves or other people saying, "You make me feel this way. When I'm around you, I feel this way." Now, of course, there's some truth to that. We have that experience. But it's not the deepest truth of who we are. And it's not the most empowering way of being. When we really think about the deeper teaching of Venus, it speaks to our inner relationship to ourself. So Venus is always in this dynamic state of a relationship. But it's not just between self and that which is outside of ourself. It's also between self and the inner beloved, the one that is inside of ourself. And we easily outpicture our own internal dialogue or monologue. And we're going to see and perceive and experience the people and the circumstances of our life that match that inner dialogue. You know, it's a very important teaching that perception is selective. And we actually don't consciously realize that it is a selective process and that it's actually a choice. We don't think that what we're perceiving and what we're experiencing of the world around us is a choice. It's because we're not fully taking responsibility for our own inner relationship to ourselves. So one of the harder things to come to terms with when it comes to Venus in general is that really, if we're honest with ourselves, other people aren't making us feel a certain way. Other people are only going to be reflecting how we feel about ourselves. They're only going to be eliciting what is inside of us. And it comes back down to, how do we choose to be in relationship with ourselves, with the one inside? What is the inner story we're telling ourselves? Often our feelings about ourselves are masked by way of our strong fixation on our feelings about other people. So sometimes what happens with Venus experiences, we will either find ourselves in the position of not getting what we want or not giving to another what they want. And let's look at both of those and how significant and important that is. The experience of not getting what we want essentially brings us back to ourselves. How do we feel about ourselves right now when others are not going to elicit within us the feeling that we want? Venus is all about feeling, right? Feeling implies relation. When we feel, it directly implies feeling is of conscious relationship, right? I can be touching this magnet, right? There's a sensual experience going on, but I'm not going to be feeling it unless I'm bringing awareness to it. Another example is I can be listening to someone, but I'm not necessarily going to feel the words and the impact of the words that I'm letting in if I'm not paying attention. Like, that's the difference between, we can say, just hearing something, it's sound, but we're not hearing it, right? Listening versus hearing, we can say, or maybe hearing versus listening. So anything that enters into the realm of feeling implies conscious relationship. And when the world doesn't give us what we want so that we can feel a certain way, it often ultimately just serves the greater purpose and gift of bringing us back to how we actually feel about ourselves. Because Venus fundamentally is about our self-value, our self-esteem. Had this experience, and maybe this will continue, who knows, where for some odd reason after my last video, I lost I think like 10 subscribers, didn't gain any. And or maybe I gained a couple but lost a lot more. And it's unusual. Like it's unusual to suddenly lose a lot of subscribers at once. It felt odd. And I can't for the life of me identify why. And it's not necessary or helpful for me to identify why. However, what I noticed was it actually impacted my self-value for a moment. I look at the metrics and I saw my subscriber list was going down. Usually after a video, mostly it goes up. After a video or after a mailing list, I'll usually see an increase, right? And sometimes a video gets really popular and I'll get a big increase, and it makes me feel good. Definitely makes me feel good. When I look, there's like a dopamine rush when I see my subscriber list went up. And there's a little bit of a letdown when it goes down. So when it went down a whole bunch, it really, I would look there and I would hope that it wouldn't go down. And that was really sobering. Really sobering. And I just came to terms with how dependent I am on being liked. As much as I don't want to admit that to myself, how much I feel good about myself when I see a positive response, when I see, oh, more people are signing on, right? I don't want that to be true. I don't want to be honest about that, but it's totally true. And so I woke up this morning really coming to terms with that in myself. And I sort of like went through this hump of feeling really bad about myself. It just brought up all these other feelings. And I woke up this morning, and eventually I looked at my phone, didn't expect it to go up. In fact, I was like, I bet it went down even more. I was telling myself it may have gone down more. And I was almost like, bring it on. Like, let me lose everything that I've made as valuable. Like, just like, if it's fake, if it's not real, if it's superficial, if it's coming from the outside, I don't want it. And it went up. Like, I got one new subscriber, right? But I was not needing more. It's so healing to go through that experience of being disappointed or feeling low about ourselves because we're not getting something. Because I don't want to live my life. There are like celebrities and famous people out there that are incredibly empty on the inside. Hey, this is really getting into what Venus and Leo is all about, right? You can be empty on the inside, but be adored and loved and have a lot of accolades, and you will never touch that emptiness. I'm fortunate that it just took 10 subscribers to unsubscribe for me to like really come to terms with how crappy I felt about myself. Another dimension it brought up for me, I have this music channel, and it's not a very big channel. I don't have a lot of subscribers, but I'm endeavoring to engage with it more. I want to share my music more. I'm joyed to share my music. I'm joyed by anyone that gets to hear it. It means a lot to me. Music touches a deeper part of my soul than teaching, although there's an interlap between the two. There's some part of my being that wants to come out more, that I'm craving to flow with, and I've been struggling with it. I've been making these videos, and my inner critic, it's been really hard for me to just make music and share it. And so it brought up that too. It just brought up this feeling of like, I'm not doing what I love. I'm not sharing. All the things that I think are going well are just going well because I'm getting good feedback, but I don't really love my life. It really brought everything up for me. And so I'm just wanting to be transparent about that window, because these are all just ways of speaking to myself. None of that is true, but nor is it true to say I'm on top of the world because people like me, or because I finally made that video and I'm getting a lot of attention to it. The truth is we can only really know ourselves according to the standards of being in alignment with ourselves. Like, do I love what I'm doing? Do I love my life? Do I love what I'm doing with my life? And that's what these transits are all about. I think this Venus and Leo squaring all of that Taurus is really highlighting, and will continue to highlight very deeply. Do we love how we feel about ourselves in doing the things that we do? And I've often heard that when you're really connected to your art, you'll just do it because you're doing it for yourself. You want to do it. And there's joy in sharing it and releasing and moving it out there, but it's really just to circulate it, move it out there, and go on to the next thing. You're not attached to how many people like it, how many people see it, what kind of feedback you get, because you know there's more. You know you want to keep on going. Actually, when we're not in touch with our joy, we will need more external feedback to make it feel good for us. The more we feel like affirmed from the inside, doing what we love, all we'll care about is doing more of it. All we'll want to do is more creation. And we'll feel joy to share it, and we'll feel joy to see it met and received by others, but it's not going to make us feel any better about ourselves. And that's the difference here. We can appreciate it immensely, but the fuel inside of our hearts is coming from ourselves, right? It's coming from within. And it's telling us, keep on creating, because you want to create. Because you're learning more about who you are. You're entering into a more pure vibration, a more essential vibration. You're living your essence. Create, share, release, let go, move on to the next thing. That's really what tells us that we're connected to our joy. So the experience of however life may not be giving us that yes, or giving us the rewards, giving us the dopamine rush, might just be a part of the journey of us being guided to ourselves, to be deeper, to go deeper within. So the other end of that is true. Sometimes Jeff Green often said that the supreme act of giving is often by appearing not to give. If our life force energy is caught up in patterns of people pleasing and, thinking that we're responsible to make other people feel good about themselves, that's going to keep our energy and other people's energy caught up, meaning we're not going to really allow ourselves to actualize. If we're sustaining these dependencies that we're responsible to affirm other people's self-value, we're not going to allow them to really find their own value. So there's a way of being centered in our heart, in our love, in our joy, in our peace, in our contentment, and to appreciate one another, sincerely appreciate one another, but not necessarily needing to take on the role of making other people feel better about themselves. That's different vibration than appreciation. Our feelings about ourselves are our work. Our feelings about other people is our work. Our feelings are our responsibility 100% of the case, regardless of the evidence to the contrary. That's the deeper teaching of Venus, but this is also why when it comes to Venus, we're so externally focused. We're just think of Venus in any sign. There's such a strong tendency to be externally focused, be it on the people or on the things of our life. And the deeper healing comes when we really take responsibility for how we feel, how we are in relationship to ourselves. So I think this Venus-Leo journey is going to continue to really point us beautifully and deeply back to ourselves, back to our own inherent self-value. Our self-value is really inestimable. You can't estimate it. It's indescribable. So that being the case, nothing in this world could validate it. It couldn't. That would be invalidating. If something in this world could possibly validate and affirm the fullness of what we are, that would diminish what it is that we actually are. So let this be a time of allowing our hearts to be inspired, often through the experience of not feeling good, because that is just something that wants to be met with love and with compassion, so that we cannot avoid ourselves. So we can actually finally say, this is here. I wasn't looking at this because I was distracting myself with my relationships, with how I feel about things, how people make me feel. But this is here. Okay. This is just where I'm learning who I really am, instead of replacing that with something artificial. Thank you for watching. Quick announcement. I am now making available my chart interpretation course. This begins late August. This is for anyone that is already practiced in the basics of evolutionary astrology and wants to continue on with deeper study. We're going to be doing chart interpretive work. So you have to apply to join because I want to make sure everyone that's joining the course is at the same level. So you can check it out and learn more about it in the description below.